On the afternoon of Friday, January the 11th, 2008, I picked up my 7-year-old daughter Francesca from her school in Romford and brought her back to my home in Electric Mansions, Brixton. I lived with my partner Fiona up on the 4th floor, overlooking the historic market. This would be Francesca's first ever weekend at Dad's. Her mother had previously expressed concerns about Brixton's violent reputation. Breakfast on Saturday morning was followed by a tour of the market and, of course, Woolworths, soon to be Wasworths. My oldest children, Aaron and Jamila, travelled over from Chiswick to join us at midday. We enjoyed an afternoon of food and DVDs in front of a cosy open log fire.
Oh, hey!
That evening, Aaron popped out to the local shop for something or other. Around 10 minutes later, I glanced out of our front room window and saw flashing police lights and crime scene tape in Atlantic Road. Looking back along Electric Avenue, I saw Aaron had been stopped from returning by a police officer. The crime scene tape must have gone up while he was in the shop. I called out, the officer looked up and nodded in acknowledgement before lifting the tape to let him through.
All right, Aaron!
Electric Avenue's distinctive rowdy clatter had dwindled to a low hum. A large group of Afghan youths assembled in the shadowy spot where Aaron had stood. I tried to keep the children away from the window, but that proved difficult. When we woke the following morning, a crime scene tent was in place, guarded by a lone copper. We spent Sunday morning watching the detectives. A stillness had descended, broken only by trains crossing the Pope's Road Bridge. Francesca asked, "Is he dead under that tent?" "I shouldn't think so," I replied, trying to downsize the horror. "They're probably just checking the road for clues." She shot back, "Don't be silly, Dad. Of course he's dead." We heard on a radio news bulletin that a young medical student had been ambushed and stabbed in the chest. The murder of Khalil Nasiri became known as the 20p Orange murder. Apparently there'd been a heated dispute at Khalil's cousin's shop 2 days earlier over the theft of an orange. The scolded thief is said to have returned to the shop, Nasiri Quality Food and Veg, hell-bent on revenge. The bad news sent shockwaves rippling out from central Brixton across the whole country. Over the following days, hundreds of people visited the shop to place written tributes, flowers and candles. The shopfront on the corner of Atlantic Road and Electric Avenue was turned into a shrine. Police appeal posters went up on lampposts in shops and local businesses. Suspicions among the few remaining long-term Electric Avenue residents were that the stabbing had nothing to do with shoplifting, more likely down to a protection racket. I heard that one a few times. Down Cold Harbour Lane, outside the barrier block, I sat in on a conversation between 3 elder Brixton heads. Anytime you see the colour orange, it's them. Freemasons. Trickery. TV news crews made a beeline for SW9. Brixton's in the spotlight again, for all the wrong reasons. Gang culture and knife crime once again became national hot topics. Should the police be given carte blanche to stop and search people for weapons?
I don't think it's a good idea to give them more powers to do what? I don't think that is right.
A public vigil took place outside the Nasiri Food and Veg store at 6 p.m. on Saturday, January the 19th. Fiona and I got down there early. Over 400 people attended. We stood shoulder to shoulder in flickering candlelight. A succession of speakers addressed the gathering from halfway up a stepladder.
A very sad task for me to have to stand here in front of you on a Saturday evening because a fellow businessman has been murdered for doing his trade. We have many different communities and peoples in Brixton. What is beautiful about it is that it provides a space for all of us to come, to live, to trade, to shop, for entertainment, or anything else we choose. It's for us to build this community. I was here when we had our problems in the 80s. I was here in the 90s when they tried to blow us up. And I'm still here, and my intention is that this place is a fit place for my grandchildren to grow up in. And that it's not a place where people lose their lives over such ridiculous things.
Every time I come here, even if I don't have it, he used to leave me off. Sometimes I've been passing through. He used to call me, come on, my girlfriend, come on, what's happening today? And I just can't believe when I didn't hear him say he died. I'm sorry.
I'll keep my remarks short, but myself, all the officers in Brixton and our colleagues from the murder teams are committed to solving this murder and making you all safer. Thank you.
It's our community here that stands together, and together this thing will not happen again. This is not the Brixton that I know. The Brixton I know is full of wonderful people. We don't need these things on our streets. We all stand together in this, and we are all so sorry for what's happened. This is a community in shock. Thank you. Please remain silent for a minute and remember the soul of the beautiful young man who was loved by everyone.
The vigil culminated with a march around the block. United in solace, we walked up Atlantic Road, turned left into Electric Lane and left again back into Electric Avenue, where people gradually dispersed. Brixton rule number 1. There is always more to the story. Scratch the surface of the 20p Orange murder and you're looking at a catalogue of discrepancies. Shop owner Asad Nasiri, who is Khalil's cousin, stated that on Thursday, January the 10th, the perpetrator had come into the shop and tried to walk out without paying for an orange. The Sun newspaper told the same story on its front page. The thief was ordered out of the shop. The Daily Mail and the Sydney Morning Herald reported that the thief took an orange from the greengrocer's fruit display in the street. The Daily Mirror states that Khalil only visited the store by chance on that fateful night, indicating that he was not present during the initial shoplifting argument. Other online reports say the same thing, Khalil, who had nothing to do with the original dispute. Yet the Daily Mail report of the eventual Old Bailey murder trial states that Khalil was very much involved in the initial argument. After being confronted, the orange thief is said to have run to his car and returned with a hammer. More than one witness described the orange thief as almost hysterical and very aggressive. He threatened to hit Khalil Nasiri.
2 days before the murder, Khalil had remonstrated with a man who was apparently trying to steal oranges from the stall. It seems that man came back with accomplices last Saturday evening looking for revenge.
During the Old Bailey trial, jurors were given this account. Then a man wearing a hood followed Mr. Nasiri into the shop and stabbed him. The Evening Standard reported that Khalil was stabbed outside the shop. The crime scene tent went up outside the shop. This statement from Asad Nasiri was read in court. Khalil and 2 others were standing outside the shop clearing up. A black man and 4 others just came up to them and started to stab them without saying a single word. They stabbed Khalil from behind and attacked the other 2 with a hammer and knives. Khalil and 2 others. Does he not know their names? This, we are led to believe, is Delroy Brown, the man eventually convicted of Khalil Nasiri's murder. After being chased away for the attempted theft, he is said to have returned later the same day with backup, seeking revenge. Apparently the shop was shut. Brixton rule number 2. Never, under any circumstances, raise your hand in violence against an Afghan shopkeeper. It will not end well for you. If you were to venture down Electric Avenue looking for trouble during business hours, you'd find it pretty quickly. Brixton's Afghan community came up the hard way, like the Windrush generation before them. They are humble, hard-working and utterly fearless. So, after the knife attack, how on earth did the culprit escape? From my experience, the moment it kicks off, reinforcements will appear from every direction. It gets loud. Everybody starts barking, hey, hey, hey. If need be, they will pick up wooden pallets, broomsticks, anything and wade straight in. Standard. No reverse gear. By Brixton rules, the knife man should have been overwhelmed and stomped out. Or failing that, trailed at a distance by a determined mob. In over 20 years I've never seen anybody take it to the Afghan community of Electric Avenue and come out on top. It must have been Delroy Brown's lucky day. The police put out an appeal for witnesses and private footage. Fiona had recorded the emergency response activity from our front room window with her DV camera. I filmed with my compact camera from another window. She contacted the inspector leading the investigation and offered him her tapes. He came upstairs to our flat one afternoon, accompanied by a smiley-faced community officer. We drank tea and chatted for around half an hour. It turns out he was the man who'd arrested Cole Gordon in Greenford. Back in 2006, Gordon killed one man and seriously wounded another in Wellstead Way, Chiswick. That murder happened outside Aaron and Jamila's home. Their mother and Cole Gordon were friends. The inspector left Electric Mansions with Fiona's tapes. Try as we might, we were never able to get them back. She has kicked herself ever since for not copying them beforehand. I kept quiet about my footage. It's shaky and all too brief, but we can see a huddle of emergency responders in the spot where the murder is said to have taken place. The crime scene tent is yet to be erected. Looking through the gaps between responders, I can't see a body or any blood. The usual procedure for deaths in public is to cover the deceased with a tarpaulin. I saw the tarpaulin come out after Rodney Ferguson was killed by a speeding motorbiker in Cold Harbour Lane, and when a man went under a truck in Acre Lane. Khalil Nasiri is said to have died instantly, yet there's no tarpaulin. We don't see forensic experts either. Another missing element is the Brixton crowd. The murder, we are told, happened at 7:30 p.m. The area would usually be teeming with people at that time. A knife attack and a dead man in the middle of Atlantic Road should have drawn a crowd. Brixton rules. Looking down Pope's Road, beyond the tape, there's nobody around. This is that Sun newspaper front page again, and it's a photograph that for me throws up more questions. It looks like Khalil's body has been lifted up onto a gurney here. Now we are told that he died instantly, so you'd expect his body to be left in situ while the investigation gets underway. Let's assume the investigation is underway. The emergency responders have lifted his body up onto this gurney and then just disappeared. Where are they? Why have they left his body in the middle of the road like this? And since when, in a court of law, has allegedly seen on CCTV been considered sound evidence? As is often the case in SW9, questions heavily outnumber answers. If the truth walked in, no one would believe it. Brixton rule number 3, keep calm, and don't forget rule number 1.